Hello, everybody. This is Greg Marks. This is the inaugural, kind of a test run of a new college football podcast that I would like to be starting up here. I know it's kind of an inopportune time of the year for something like this, but there's a lot to talk about. We're heading into conference championship weekend, into bowl season. A lot of coaching carousel kind of news that came out earlier this week. I just moved to a new city, and I have been pretty busy taking over in assistant editor position that focuses on the sports desk. I started off as a sports writer, eventually moved on to staff writing, and then eventually editing. But my roots are really tied into sports, and college football is one of my biggest passions. I have to say that I was kind of not left in the dark, but I was kind of naive as to what was going on over the course of this past week because of the moving process, starting this new job, and boots on the ground, hitting it hard, and just trying to get things figured out around here. I love this new city that I'm in, Stevens Point, Wisconsin, and it's been a great opportunity. And I'm really looking forward to the things that are coming about. Meeting with a bunch of athletic directors here within the next few days from the high schools, and when it comes to winter sports, it's a very busy season, and to be able to do this podcast and to work from home while working for the Point Plover Metro Wire is the publication that I am working for, with my former editorial colleague, Brandy McCuskey, who is the principal owner, chief publisher, chief editor. We worked together at a publishing conglomerate that owned a number of publications throughout central and northern Wisconsin, but we both left the organization about 4 years ago. We've stayed in contact, and this has been an opportunity to get back into sports writing, to get back into doing what I love. But on that note, let's dive right into it. I actually just got done watching an interview with Lincoln Riley, and I've been talking about doing this podcast for almost years now, and it really kind of came to fruition in the last couple of weeks. I've been talking about it with my dad, with my nephews, my family, my mom. And once I get some better equipment and all that, we'll upgrade and we'll go from there. But I just got done watching an interview with Lincoln Riley, interviewed by Joel Klatt, who I have a lot of respect for as a college football analyst. And wow, what a shakeup between Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley, just in the span of 2 to 3 days. Two of the major programs, two top 10 programs basically in the country, now have vacated head coaching positions. Notre Dame and Oklahoma, obviously. And two programs that in the last year have seen a drastic downturn, USC and LSU, now have themselves reputable winning coaches at the helm. Brian Kelly is an interesting sort. He left Cincinnati. I was living in New Orleans at the time. Cincinnati played Florida in the Sugar Bowl, and he left just a few days prior from the Bearcat program to take over head coaching duties at Notre Dame, which he considered to be his dream job. It's such an interesting take because I always thought that Notre Dame, even though, I mean, they're perennially a top 10 program. I always thought that while they've only been to, I believe, one college football playoff national championship, they got destroyed by Alabama. They're always right in that cusp of being in that top 4, top 5, top 6. But he kind of jumped ship, took over this job at Notre Dame, and I always thought that Notre Dame was one of the probably biggest, wealthiest alumni bases in the country as far as college football programs that would be able to facilitate the needs of their coach. So, I mean, I've always thought that they would be well compensated. To take over a position at LSU, where there is a huge alumni base, football is huge in the state of Louisiana, it just seems like it's going to be a much more stressful job. It's a very, very immediate turnaround, results-oriented coaching position. Obviously, Coach Ed Orgeron ran into some off-the-field issues with his staff and perhaps even recruiting-wise and all that, but they ran that man out of town 2 years after he led them to a national championship. Their first since 2003, I believe. Was that Les Miles' first year? It was Nick Saban's team. But anyway, it was their first national championship in well over a decade. And they put the kibosh on him pretty quick. Now, albeit Coach O, go Tigers. I mean, obviously he inherited a program that just happened to have the stars align for him. And he had a quarterback that had a chip on his shoulder, a transfer quarterback, in Joe Burrow, who Urban Meyer recruited to Ohio State. Said, Joe, you're a phenomenal talent. You're going to be starting. Welcome aboard to the Buckeyes. What happens? He ends up getting benched for Justin Fields. So he transfers to LSU. He's got probably one of the best college football receiving corps ever assembled. And in particular, Jamar Chase, who he plays with at Cincinnati now in the NFL. Justin Jefferson, who's just absolutely tearing it up for the Vikings right now. Incredible defense. I mean, LSU consistently has a pretty darn good defense, especially on the back end. Their linebackers and, in particular, their defensive backs. I mean, that is a defensive back university. They put out some of the best corners and safeties in the entire country. Between them and University of Miami, I would have to say. You had a pro-style offensive coordinator in Joe Brady, went on to join Matt Rule, Carolina Panthers, so literally professional offensive coordinator that basically opened up the playbook, let Joe Burrow run what he wanted to run. You had a very decent running back in Clyde Edwards-Helaire, plays for the Chiefs now. Stars aligned for Coach Orgeron. Won a national championship. One of the most prolific offenses in college football history. Heisman winning quarterback. Next year, things tapered off so much that he was on the hot seat a year after winning a national championship. And now he's going to be gone. You bring in a guy like Brian Kelly. Brian Kelly is known for earlier in his career, being kind of a hothead, being pretty dramatic on the sidelines. He's kind of toned that back a little bit. But you're going to a place at LSU where these people are going to expect immediate results. And it is not going to be easy for him. I feel like Notre Dame, while they do expect pretty lofty expectations, not to sound redundant, but you're going to a place where these people, they want you to be in the college football playoff next year. And you have not even had a chance to assemble your own recruiting staff, your own recruits, to familiarize yourself with the territory and the expectations themselves. I think Brian Kelly's going to learn very quickly that he might have made the wrong decision, and I don't think he's the right fit. But back to what I was originally saying. When it comes to Lincoln Riley, I think while he is leaving a very good program at Oklahoma, and again, another perennial top 5, top 6 team, he is young enough, smart enough, and can probably handle the pressure better than Brian Kelly to go to you're going to a rock star program with Southern California. You're literally going to Los Angeles, to the city of lights, the city of dreams and hopes. And I mean, as cliche as that sounds, it really is an entertainment-based city. And they have not had a consistently good college team between USC, UCLA, since Pete Carroll was the Trojans head coach. The sports world there is very competitive. And they've had things to look forward to, especially with the addition of the Chargers and the Rams. Dodgers are always very, very good. Lakers, are a big draw. But in terms of the college world, they really have not had a consistent program there in over a decade. So I think Lincoln Riley is going to be a good fit. He seems like the kind of coach, from what I've observed, when it comes to Kyler Murray, when it comes to even the struggles that Spencer Rattler's had. They're now starting quarterback Caleb Williams. It seems like he's the kind of guy that can relate to young, hotshot talent, which is what you are going to be recruiting if you stay within your bounds of Southern California. Now, I'm not saying that it's going to be that geographically centric. You want to recruit from all over the country, obviously, but just West Coast in general. I think that he is a much better fit for USC in terms of recruiting because of his age, his poise, his demeanor. He's much better suited to a Southern California environment than old man Brian Kelly going down to Baton Rouge and trying to talk to these kids from New Orleans, the Bayou, backwater Louisiana, whatever, or even, Mississippi or anywhere in the South. He just doesn't seem to have that kind of fit, which is surprising because Coach Orgeron was the embodiment of that. So I just feel that when it comes to this coaching carousel that has come about within the past week, I really feel like USC really did a good job reaching out and getting what they needed to do to revitalize that program. LSU went for, kind of like almost like when you're like fantasy football drafting. It's almost as if they went for, what else is best available? And the fact that Brian Kelly left a job with the Fighting Irish to go down to Baton Rouge has blown my mind. And now that I finally had some chance to reflect on this and think about it for a minute, it'll be a very interesting year next year. It'll be a very interesting next couple of months with, signing periods and recruiting classes and spring camps, spring games. The other thing that Brian Kelly's gonna have to adapt to is that you're not getting kids that are gonna be held to an academic and standard of Notre Dame. You're going to be held to LSU. These kids down in Louisiana are phenomenal athletes, and they want to go pro. Like I said, it's a defensive back university. You're going to get some hotshot cornerback that now you have to corral, make sure he goes to class, can keep up with his studies and keep up with his performance on the field. At Notre Dame, that was basically a given. But anyway, so we're moving onward. We're going into a conference championships. And being a Wisconsin guy, I happened to have had this past Saturday. It was my father's 65th birthday party, along with my going away party, having moved down here to Stevens Point. We had a little co-party at our favorite local bar, and it was very nice. We had a lot of people there, pizzas, desserts, free beer. It was great. College football on TV. Badgers. It seems as if in that game against Minnesota, in that loss, the Badgers didn't score an offensive touchdown that entire game. The only reason why they were on the board at all whatsoever was because of 2 field goals and a pick six. Graham Mertz couldn't move the ball down the field. Braylon Allen couldn't run to save his life. He was getting bottled up, but the play calling was atrocious. It seems as if the further down his tenure that Paul Chryst goes, the more complacent he gets with being extremely conservative in his play calling, especially in the second half. You're already down. What are you going to do? Okay, 1st and 10 at your own 25. We're going to run 3 draw runs that are getting stuffed every time. Punt. You got to loosen it up a little bit. You got to get out there. You got to attack a little bit more. You can't play to your own strengths once they are figured out by the opposing team. So we got Iowa, Michigan, Big Ten championship game. That Michigan-Ohio State game. I was on my way back Saturday morning before my father's and my party. I was on my way back from my sister's place near Milwaukee. Spent a good few days for Thanksgiving down there with my sister, my brother-in-law, my 2 nephews. Love them to pieces. We listened to 3/4 of the game on the radio. And when we got back to town, we chilled out for a little bit and watched the 4th quarter of the game on TV before heading down to our party. And I did not see that coming whatsoever. And don't get me wrong, I'm not a Jim Harbaugh fan whatsoever. But I'm actually happy for him because I'm even less of a Ryan Day fan. Ryan Day is the kind of guy that, like, he's the embodiment of the in the Ohio State University. He's a very himself man. I don't think that he really has that much of a connection with his players. He was another guy, kind of like, in a less charismatic way, like Coach Orgeron, that kind of like inherited a team that Urban Meyer had built to recruit, and then Urban Meyer, we'll save that for a different episode, but he is the kind of embodiment of a guy that inherited a team and was able to instantly have success and instantly be able to capitalize on that success in terms of recruiting. So he really didn't have to do anything in terms of his own commitments. But I'm very happy for Wolverine fans. Kind of happy for Jim Harbaugh. Even if in like a cynical way, because of the fact that it means that we don't have to hear about this. You know, he's never beat Ohio State in the big game since his taking over as the Wolverines head coach. But yeah, I mean, you can put that to rest now, and Michigan looked like the real deal. And they were, who was that? Hassan Haskins, running back. He had a heck of a game. I think they're gonna trounce Iowa, personally, and they'll work their way into maybe vying for a national championship. But we'll have to see. We have Alabama, Georgia. I am an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. Roll Tide. I think that they will probably lose to Georgia, which would make things very interesting. We have to see what Cincinnati does in the AAC championship. But there's no given there either. I mean, it would be fun to see a group of 5 team in the playoff, just to try and just as an experiment for the selection committee going forward, to see how they would fare in a big time playoff bowl game against a big time program. And you never know, but Alabama could be a 2-loss team after this weekend. And still, if they kept it a close game, let's say they lost by a field goal to the Bulldogs, they could be a 2-loss team and still claim that number 4 spot and bounce Cincinnati out, which, do I agree with? Not necessarily. But there's a good chance that could happen. As far as your other conference championships, I mean, those are your big ones right there. We'll have to take a look, and maybe in a day or two from now, we'll look at the ratings, or the rankings rather, and go from there and see what could actually play out this weekend. Like I said, this was just a little test run college football podcast here, and once I get more of the professional equipment, quality will go up. Hopefully listeners and subscribers or whatever will continue to grow. And I hope you enjoyed this. This was just something I kind of wanted to do right now, because I had a little downtime from my actual sports writing job for an hour here. But take care of yourselves. Hope you have a great holiday season, great day, great rest of the week, and continue to tune in, and I will let you know what the more specific schedule is going to pan out to be. But take care of yourselves. Thanks.